It gets to a stage where you think, when's the rebuild? When's the rebuild happening? Rebuild. What's going on?
And well, it seems like the rebuild's already started. I mean, we factor in they won the Liga last season, but the last 2 seasons in a row they've kind of had the unthinkable happen where. And just lastly, we'll want to cover some more slightly breaking news about Barcelona being charged with allegedly bribing a referee, Jose Negreira, in between the years 2001 to 2018. And Pep Guardiola quite recently coming out to say that he didn't feel like Barcelona had paid for an unfair advantage during his years as a Barcelona manager between 2008 and 2012, which is quite in the middle of that sort of 17-year range that is currently under investigation.
He's always going to come out and defend it, though. Obviously, when he's part of it, that's just his nature. He'd definitely do that. And obviously, we spoke about before that this isn't the first time something like this has happened in Italy. I think you know a bit more about that than I do.
Yeah, the Calciopoli scandal in the mid-2000s. A number of clubs were under investigation for match fixing, in their non-used Juventus were charged. They were stripped of 2 of their league titles. They were immediately relegated as well in the mid-2000s. They even had their title, one of them at least, handed over to Inter at the end of that season as well, and who finished 2nd place.
That's big for that then.
Yeah, and a club of Juventus's size, they've not always entirely recovered from that, I would say. And I think, especially within Italian football, a lot of fans of other countries, a lot of fans of other clubs still have quite a detest for Juventus for that scandal as well. And you look at Barcelona now, a club of Barcelona's size on a global scale, being charged in an investigation like that. Or at the moment, it's only a charge. It's not that they've been proven guilty yet, or if they even will be. But a scandal like that is just not doing great for them. And particularly with the financial burden that they have right now, with the massive debt they have, if there was any possibility of a fine coming in, as a punishment, like that could have major ramifications for Barcelona's plans to try and get rid of their debt as quickly as they can.
Because if something major comes back to bite them, I'm sure this wouldn't happen, but imagine they're relegated from the Liga. Point deductions, because they're struggling. They've struggled for the last 4 or 5 years, especially in Europe, and their fans must think, what is going on at our club? What is actually going on? Obviously, you get to that era where you've just had so many great moments. You've had the greats that have played, the Iniestas, Xavis, Messis, Albas. You could list the whole team, name the whole team. But they get to a stage where you think, when's the rebuild? When's the rebuild happening? Rebuild. What's going on?
And well, it seems like the rebuild's already started. I mean, we factor in they won the Liga last season, but the last 2 seasons in a row they've kind of had the unthinkable happen where they've been knocked out of the Champions League in the group stages.
But that's what I mean. I think not just a rebuild. I think their mentality has just shifted. Real Madrid, their mentality is just winning, always winning, always wanting to win the Champions League. I just think Barcelona have just fallen off from that winning way. I know obviously they've won the Liga, but come on.
Yeah, it's an interesting talking point because we can now start to probably bring in transfers. I always felt like personally, Real Madrid's transfer policy, looking at youngsters that had really high potential to be big stars, the likes of Vinicius, Rodrigo Goes. They had Rainier as well. It's not so far worked out for him, but they've had other guys who it hasn't worked out for, but some have. The likes of Valverde has worked out so far at Real Madrid. They've had other guys like Odriozola, who he's gone on what seems like an endless amount of loans. And with Real Madrid, so far, I think they've benefited from investing in those young talents earlier. And I think we've seen Barcelona and Chelsea start to dip into that market now, looking at
change,
like young wonder kids from Brazil and other leagues as well. Not just South America, but in other countries in Europe as well, even in North America. And right now, I felt like Real Madrid have benefited from having that transfer strategy in place for a few years earlier. And with Barcelona, I think what we did see was they spent a lot of money on a lot of players trying to get guys who could help Messi and Suarez for a limited amount of time. You know, trying to take the club back to get into Champions League finals, because they've not been in Champions League final since they won in 2015. Where, you know, we're now coming up on close to 9 years since that.
Crazy for them.
You know,
insane.
So you look at Barcelona now and you just think it's just one issue after another. You know, there was massive backlash with their club's former president at the time, Bartomeu. He is someone who a lot of fans have credited with a lot of the sort of chaos that had been happening around the club. You know, like just mismanagement of transfer funds and all kinds of deals anyway. And, you know, now with this allegation coming up against Barcelona, does that potentially scare off potential investors or even guys who are already investing in the club now? You know, they're trying to build a new stadium.
And players as well.
You know,
players that come to Barcelona, you know, if they offer you a wage, will you even be paid? Will you be paid?
Yeah,
Do you remember back in the time, sorry to interrupt, but back in the time, I think it was the dispute, was it between PK? Was it PK? And there's some allegation about, you know, him not being paid or something.
Yeah, I think that was a number of players. I think there was one for Frankie de Jong as well. That he hadn't been paid quite a bit of his salary since joining Barcelona. And even beyond that, like a lot of players that Barcelona were sort of like pleading with to reduce their salaries so they could try and sign some more players and register players into their squad, because that's been a repeated issue in the last 2 summer windows.
Yeah.
You know, having to delay signing players.
And is that all stemming from Messi and his original wage at Barcelona?
It was I think it probably would be a bit harsh to
Not
give
just
all the
Messi,
credit, but that was definitely something that was a massive issue. And even on Lionel Messi's part, he was someone who wanted to reduce his terms massively. But Spanish football do have rules in place where a player can't renew for less than 50% of what they were making the previous year on their salary.
Which is a ridiculous rule.
It's a particular. They've got quite a few rules that have been, you know, keeping Barcelona's hands tied, if I'm being honest, money wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all kinds of things like that.